So, talk to me about this connection between mental health and physical health. It seems so obvious, but so overlooked by medicine. And how did you find yourself at this point where you're now a leading advocate for the connection between exercise and mental health benefits?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's a very big question in terms of number one, the divide between mental and physical health. And then number two, advocating for that connection. I think there's a long history why that divide exists and why it's been perpetuated. We know Rene Descartes, he was a philosopher back in the 17th century who had this divide between mind and body. And essentially at that time, that perpetuated into medicine, where we saw these two things as separate entities. And currently in the field of medicine, this dualism still persists, where we have the more quote unquote medical specialties when you look at things like internal medicine or neurology. And then you have more of the mind or mental health specialties, which is psychiatry, which is what I'm in right now. And that dualism persists, and it's not very helpful because, we know, both of these conditions on either side interact one another in a number of ways. And a very good example is neurology and psychiatry. Mm-hmm. We're both very focused on the brain, and not to oversimplify psychiatry as just the brain, because that's my whole thing too, if that's not the case. But just for the sake of discussion, where a neurological condition can become a psychiatric condition if we don't have a direct neurological correlate to it. If there's not a brain imaging finding, if there's not a blood marker, then it becomes the home of psychiatry. And the same way is the opposite. It goes either way if there is a marker or is not. But the reality is that these conditions overlap so much and they interact on so many different levels. And we're seeing a movement of that more and more with metabolism and mental health and how all these different things interact. So I think it's a long-winded way to say that medicine has really siloed its care into different specialties, which is at the detriment of both our own learning, but also patient well-being. And that's perpetuated. That goes into research, that goes into clinical. And that segues into the second question, where why I advocate for so many of these more holistic or lifestyle interventions in mental health is that a lot of the times things like exercise, diet, sleep, these things, they interact with both sides, so mind and body. And I don't even like drawing the line because I don't think that line even exists. It's something we've artificially put. And I think emphasis on some of these interventions that treats both simultaneously is also helping to remove that divide that is so prevalent in medicine, how the condition itself affects physical and mental health.